started. Okay. We are now live on YouTube. Okay. Welcome to our first ever worldwide family meeting. Yeah, just such high demand. Let me open us in prayer. Father, this is an unusual way to do church business, but it needs to be done. We know that you desire for lost people in Clark County to come to know you, to grow up in faithfulness and maturity in you. And that just involves some really tangible, practical things like budgets and plans. And as we talk through those right now, we ask that you would give clarity and unity to our church. Lord, you please preside over this time, even though it's going to be in a bit of an unusual sort of way. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, I need to call the meeting to order. So I need to confirm that there are at least 14 current members here. So raise your hand if you are a member. And this time I actually have to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we got 14. Cool. And I need to confirm that meetings are being taken, or minutes are being taken. Is that, got it? All right. So before we get into the business, just a few notes for those of you who are joining via live stream. We are doing something different this time, and that is that obviously it's being live streamed, but you can participate and interact with the family meeting digitally. And so there's going to be, in just a minute, as we go through the slides, there will be on the bottom of the slide a phone number, and you can text questions to that phone number. Or if you're watching on YouTube, you can put in your question in the comment section. And then for those of us who are here live, if you want to do that, you can as well. But you'll be able to also ask questions in person. And normally what we've done is as we've gone through a piece of business, we've just paused and asked for questions. But we're going to do all the questions at the end, just because there's a little bit of a lag on the YouTube thing, and it would just be easier to kind of do it all as one batch rather than in sections. So if you have questions and you don't want to forget it, write it down. Or for those of you who are watching via YouTube, just go ahead and write those in the comments or text them, and then we'll get to them towards the end before voting. Okay? And then the second different thing is for those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can, we're hearing YouTube on the computer, that's funny. You can vote digitally as well. And we're going to go through the details on how to do that at the end. But that's coming, just so you know. So let me just remind us of why we exist as a church, okay? This should be going. This is our mission statement. As a church, our purpose is to connect people to the God who made them, to friends who help them in a world that needs them. And I know we haven't been meeting in the normal way the last several months, so I haven't had the chance to drill this into you week after week, but hopefully that sounds familiar. And so this is our Venn diagram, and we believe that where those three circles intersect, when we have good connections, good relationships with God, with friends, and by friends we mean Christian brothers and sisters, and the world, meaning unsaved, not followers of Jesus, when you have good, meaningful relationships in all three of those spheres, that's when we are kind of banging on all cylinders as a church. And that's true for us as individuals as well. And so that's what we want to be doing. So the reason I remind us of this at every one of our family meetings is that we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of looking at our budget and our plans for the next year. And this is our target. This is our bullseye, okay, is the middle of those three Venn diagrams. And so as you consider what we're planning and what we're doing, try to keep those things in mind, all right? So today we're going to look over ministry reports, tell you what we did last year, and making our plans for the upcoming year with the 2020 and 2021 budget. And that's not just numbers, that's also, you'll see some ministry plans. And then member and officer affirmations. Now just a quick note, as we go through these things, the budget may be a little more detailed, but the ministry reports are highlights. The full version, for those of you who are live, we have some printed ones that hopefully you saw as you came in. And for those of you who are watching online, an email was sent out, but if you need access to it, email us and we can get you one after the fact. But the full version is available, but we'll be going through highlights, otherwise we'd be here a long time, okay? All right, so we're going to start by going through each one of our ministry areas. So I'm going to start, just since I'm already up here, going through Discipleship Ministries. That's my kind of circle of ministry for our church. And so our successes this last year is I've been trying to work at recruiting new BX teachers, which for the time being is sort of meaningless since we don't have BX. But my goal for this year was to get one new BX teacher, and the Lord provided two. And so that's a really big deal. To have more qualified teachers to help shepherd our people. We created, and this was sort of my circle combining with Scott's circle of ministry responsibilities, missionary care team to help us try to stay a little bit more engaged as a church in terms of sending packages and trying to keep a little bit more our finger on the pulse of what's going on with our missionaries around the world. And then we had our week of prayer. So that was our second annual week of prayer, and that's going to be something for a while, I think indefinitely, that we're just going to keep doing and hammering at, and I think it went well this last year. So those are just three successes I wanted to highlight. Some goals for this next year. Probably the biggest one for me, at least that's on my mind right now, is I've been trying to think through an intentional discipleship process and trying to figure out what does that look like in terms of our current programming. And I want to I've done a lot of thinking and working on that already, and I'm nearing the tail end of the thinking, brainstorming, developing phase. I've had conversations with several people, and I'm hoping to, in the next year, when we're able to start gathering again, to start making some changes that way. There's not going to be any really major changes to our current programming, so you can ask questions about that specifics if you want towards the end. My goal this next year is that we do a week of prayer again, but this time with 50 plus prayer hours. Now, I want to stay away from being legalistic and all that, but numbers are really the only way to count participation. And so just to give you a bit of context, the last year was 36 prayer hours, and so I'm wanting to up it a bit. This next year, we have not in the past done small group signups. I've made announcements from the front and had people have the option to, sign up via Connect cards. But I'm hoping, seeing how the fall goes, but hopefully for sure in the spring, we'll be doing a large push as a church to sign up for small groups. This will be different if you've been around for a while than what we've done in the past, where we've said, hey, for the next 6 weeks, we as a whole church are going through the book of James or what have you. It won't be exactly that, but kind of the same, trying to just bring a bit of positive peer pressure to help people get involved in community, just thinking through that circle of friends, wanting to make sure everyone has a chance and feels the push and knows the clear on-ramp to get into them. And so if we're able to do that in the fall, we'll do it then, and then also in the spring as well. And then I would really like for at least one of our small groups to do a seeker Bible study. We had one group that was on the brink of doing one the week before coronavirus hit. So it was kind of a bummer. There was a decent amount of interest in everything. But it was very encouraging to see that we had a group of people in our church that were passionate about mission. They were connected to people who wanted to hear about Jesus. And we had a clear way to go forward with that. And then it, by God's providence, it got postponed. So hopefully in the future, this next year, we'll be able to pull that off. So those are my successes and goals for this next year. Again, if you have questions, I'm not going to stop now for them, but you can write them down or text them in, and we'll address them at the end. Next up, Cindy Avitz.
All right. Hi, everybody. Let's see if I know how. Okay, I got this. All right, so I'm going to give you guys an update on Family Ministries. Sorry. There. Is that better? All right. So for Family Ministries, just some successes want to highlight. First thing, I combined community outreach and guest services just to combine all those things. First thing that was really exciting is we were able to get a team leader for our coffee ministry that was doing coffee over at Jefferson, and that was Cindy Wodarczyk, and she's done awesome. And yeah, that was great. We did our effective parenting class in our Pathfinder class, and that seemed to be a really good fit for that environment. And then also in our guest services, we had a training meeting for all of our volunteers. Goals for next year, pending whatever happens. We'd love to see the coffee team up and running again. I don't know what that'll look like with the coronavirus, but hopefully we can do that again with masks and things like that. Hoping we were about to do our family fun night, the comedy sports event. Literally, it was canceled the week that Corona stuff started happening. So we're hoping we rescheduled that, hoping to do that again. Also hoping to get some type of marriage seminar or training for sometime in the next year. I'd also like to do, this was something we wanted to do this year but couldn't, like to organize a prayer walk in our community and just pray for our community and the families that live in this area and just cover them in prayer. 4th of July in the park didn't happen, but one of my goals this year that I'll be pushing again next year is just trying to find a coordinator to help organize our church booths there. It's always a tough one for me to manage with basketball camp and VBS and all those things. So hopefully that I'll be busy again next summer, but we'd like to find somebody to coordinate that one. And then I just wanted to take a sec to talk about guest services. This year we had Karen Schnell, who has been incredible leader of our guest service team, step down to help with some other ministry opportunities, and we are so thankful for all that she has done. But as she stepped down, we definitely have a goal to try to find a new guest services coordinator. This happened around the same time that Drew Swanson stepped down in youth ministry, so I had a bit on my plate. So Tyler has and continues to still oversee guest services as we kind of work together to find that person, and hopefully within the next year, even sooner than that, I'll take that back from Tyler. Appreciate all that he's doing to help with that. All right, so that was those. Just want to highlight children's ministry. I was really excited this year. We had some major oh, thank you. I forgot. There we go. Children's ministry. I was super excited about some improvements that we had made to our classrooms. You probably, if those of you that are here live, you can probably see all the cool remodel stuff out there. We also had some cabinets fixed and things done in our Small Wonders, as well as new chairs downstairs. So that was important. We also were able to find a new curriculum that we really liked, that teachers have liked, and it's a curriculum that we'll be able to reuse every 2 years, so we're pretty excited about that. And we also had a good ministry connection with all of our teachers and volunteers, so I was excited to have that happening. Goals for next year in children's ministry. Obviously, we want to get everything up and running again, but with kids, germs is always a big deal, so we need to figure out how we get things up and running and safe again when that time comes. For the summer right now, I'm kind of looking into some alternative options because we've had so many events, especially outreach events, that have been canceled. So one idea that I'm looking into is outdoor Bible camps at people's homes, where that would just involve 2 to 3 families. So pretty soon you'll be hearing from me, just looking for some people that might be willing to host that at their home. So if that's something that you might be interested in, let me know. What was the next one? Oh, yes. And then in Small Wonders, once we get going again, we'd like to hire somebody part-time to work on Sundays, just one person. We've had a really hard time both in Small Wonders and Children's Ministry fully staffing our crew. And if we had one person in Small Wonders, that would free up anywhere from 3 to 5 other individuals to work in different places. And those people have said they're willing to help in other places too. So we're hoping to make that happen. All right, next one is, did it go? Youth, there it is. All right. So this past year, and the youth have really gone through a lot. It's been a really strange time, obviously, with Corona and Drew stepping down, but I'm really proud of them. They've just adapted well and had a good overall good attitude, except they're very tired of Zoom meetings. Basically, our goal at the zone was going great. We did some training for some of our zone staff. For some of them, was the hope to train them more so that we had the possibility to hire them as interns. Other ones, we had a new zone staff member and more training, so that was great. Another success, which I thought was kind of crazy, despite all the things that we had to close, Voyage was able to continue on Zoom, even though it's not their favorite. And I really appreciate some of our tag leaders were still able to connect with teens and try to keep that going. Another super fun success was that we did the drive-through graduation, which was just a fun party, really. So it was fun to celebrate our seniors that way. So with the coronavirus hitting, it really shook up my plans for youth ministry. We were in the process of trying to hire a youth coordinator, and you cannot do that during this time. It is pretty much impossible because there's no youth ministry to really show functioning and things like that. And we still run into that problem because we don't know what's happening in the months to come. So with that, talk to the elders, and the plan that we're going to move forward hoping to do is we'd like to hire Sawyer McIntosh and even Evan Renfro in September of this September. These guys have worked every year that they've been high schoolers at the zone and have been trained up, and I think they're going to do a great job. And what's great with hiring these guys is they know the youth ministry, they know what's going on. I'm looking forward to brainstorming with them, and we'll move forward. And then we would like to, when we hire a youth coordinator, to be able to bring that person in and say, here's what we do, here's how our youth ministry is going, kind of catch a vision of what we have planned. So the hope is to hire a youth coordinator by January 2021. So we also want to get all the youth programs running up again. Just wanted to make a note, Voyage has been a great program that we've had for the teens. We are going to try to transition it back to a tag environment for lots of reasons. One of the reasons is we just don't have the staffing that it takes to run that. Also, tag is a little bit of a simpler program to do in this climate with having to worry about masks and things like that. And then, yeah, hopefully hire a new youth coordinator and adjust to those changes. So if you have any questions, write it down and make a note for next time. Up next, I didn't bring the agenda. Who is it? It's Scott.
I had a question earlier in the week. Somebody was asking about the different ministries and how they're divvied up. Just so if it isn't clear, or we've just assumed that people know, higher. How's that? Higher? How's that? All right. Basically, all of our ministries are under the overall oversight of the elders. And then we have what we call senior staff positions over different pieces of that. So that's Tyler and Cindy and I. And so I'm overseeing what's grouped under the worship ministry, and it's missions and worship, which are in those two circles is God. That sounds funny. I get to oversee the God ministries. But it's in terms of our church purpose statement, connecting people to the God who made them, and then the world, and so that includes the worship, obviously, and then the world that needs them. That's missions primarily. So some successes from last year, missions, of course. Operation Christmas Child is always a big deal, and we were able to pack just over 3,900 shoe boxes, which surpassed our goal of whatever it was, and we were able to fully fund the shipping of all of those shoe boxes, which it just constantly amazes me. By the way, that's something to keep in mind when you look at our missions budget, because most of what we do for Operation Christmas Child is not actually on budget. The shipping costs are primarily donated. All of the items that go in the shoe boxes are all donated. If you add it all up, that's quite an over and above our missions, and all of that is missions giving. we continue to believe that Operation Christmas Child is one of the most effective means of getting the gospel to the most people possible economically. So we continue to support that. All of our missionary partners, we were able to fully support our commitments there. And our missionary care team, which Tyler mentioned, we were able to send birthday and anniversary cards and some care packages to all of them, just to let them know we love them and are thinking about them. So that's been great. A few highlighted goals for the coming year. Our goal is up to 4,000 for Operation Christmas Child shoeboxes and 36,000 in shipping costs. Obviously, we need to pray about that because we really still want to do a community packing party. Who knows what the rules will be come November. So we're really praying we can continue to do that. We would also like, as part of the packing party orientation, we've talked about wanting to just get a little brief gospel overview as part of that, since we have so many community members. By far and away, most people who pack shoeboxes are from our community. They're not Felida church people. So a brief opportunity to share the gospel and an opportunity to follow up for those who are interested. We were very, very close to pulling the trigger on sending a team to Slovenia. Our missionaries, Hondo and Trisha Wynn, are there, working primarily with unsaved young people, and they actually requested that we would send a short team over there to help do some things like an English camp that they run. That's a great way to share the gospel with unsaved teens. And then also help them do create some video for video outreach. That had to be canceled because of our friend coronavirus. But we're hoping that we can maybe send a team this coming year. Because that's being requested. That's not just us saying, hey, let's do short-term mission, but this is actually being requested by one of our missionaries. So have a very important announcement also regarding missions. This is good news. Carrie and Hal Campbell have received a promotion with Operation Christmas Child. They are now the area coordinators for Operation Christmas Child for Southwest Washington. Does that cover it? So, yeah. That's very exciting. I can't think of anybody who would do a better job. And so they're going to be even busier than they have been. So pray for them as they try to connect with all the different churches in the area. And also what that means is Danny Weisner has received a promotion. She is going to be our project leader for Operation Christmas Child here at Felida. So, and she told me earlier she's scared to death, so please pray for her. Okay. So let me go on to the worship ministry successes. So as you hopefully noticed when you came in, there's been a lot of changes to the facility while everything's been shut down. And one of the biggest changes has been what we've been able to do to the fellowship hall / overflow. We really wanted to make it much more appealing for people to sit in and participate in our morning worship services. And you need to understand, we wanted to make it more appealing, not for guests, okay? The goal is not to put guests back there, but to put people like you back there periodically. You wouldn't do it every week necessarily. We'd have kind of a rotating, and it would be, well, let's see how full we are, and if we're pretty full, then members and regular attenders go back there some to make room for guests in this room. So hopefully that makes sense. So we've done a lot of work in there to try to, Mark Benson's done some tremendous work. We had the lighting redone. The video is much higher quality. The sound is much higher quality. So pretty excited about that. Hope we can use it one of these days. And our worship team has just done a phenomenal job, I think, of transitioning to live stream when we had to do it. And they just stepped up and made it happen. It was pretty amazing to me. So I really appreciate them doing that. We also did a lot of redecorating elsewhere, as you may see. We've got some big screens up here. That's not just because it's cool. That's actually, it has something to do with the live stream and the shot that we use. And also, the nice feature is it'll enable us to keep the cross visible during the service, so the screen won't be down. Fresh coat of paint everywhere. Yeah, orange blinds are gone. I'm sorry if any of you are really sad about that. Those of you who are watching the live stream don't really know what I'm talking about, but you should just come in sometime and look around. Yes. Highlighted goals for the coming year. We just need to train some additional worship tech personnel. Sound, video, camera. We just need more people. So if that's something that's interesting to you, please let me know. We are also in the process of replacing some equipment so that the image on these screens will be high definition. I also need to recruit a team to help us, as the fellowship hall is set up for worship when people arrive on Sunday morning. Then once worship's over, it needs to get transitioned back to a classroom, and I'm going to need help. And we got some lighter tables to make that easy. So if you'd be willing to help with that, let me know. Identify at least one additional worship song leader. Yes, we do need that. One correction on the packet that you got, the amount in the actual budget spreadsheet is correct, but the information, mine says page 31, where I've got this chart. Under AV equipment, it says 3,300. That actually got changed to 1,600. So again, it's correct in the budget, but it's not correct on that sheet. It should say 1,600 there, and the total is 13,270. Okay. Then I have one other big announcement that is good news, bad news, and that is that Ian McIntosh just let me know this week that he's been offered a staff position at another church here in Vancouver, and he's in the process of accepting that, which means that he and Mac will be leaving us. And yeah, that's a big ouch for me personally, and then for all of us. I've really come to love and appreciate the McIntoshes for who they are, not just because of all the great stuff they do, but great servants of God. And you might be asking, so what's the good news? Well, I think the good news is that this will result, I'm sure, under the providence of God, in a greater strengthening of his church here in Vancouver. It's certainly a great opportunity for Ian. So sad to see them go, but praying good things. And I'm hoping that we can have a time of farewell and send them off with our blessing and love. Not sure exactly how we're going to pull that off because of you know what. So stay tuned. Hopefully I'll have some more information on that another time. So again, if you have questions, jot them down. We'll take all those together. I think next is our deacon report. And Jenny, are you here? Yes, there you are. And I'm just going to anticipate that needs to come down.
Okay, I don't know how to use this contraption here. Thank you. One less thing for me to do. Okay, so those are our deacons. I was going to ask them to stand, but there's only like 5 of you, so I'm not going to call you out. Feel free to contact any one of these people you see. All of them have phone numbers and emails listed with the church directory online. Next one. Okay, I didn't bring my glasses, so I can't see that, just so you know, so I keep turning around. So why do we exist? Well, we help meet the practical needs of the church and the community. We're not elders. We do not oversee the functioning of this church. We don't make policy decisions. Go Go ahead, next one. So despite the corona, we have been very busy. We have delivered meals, we have delivered cards, flowers. You know, a lot of times it used to be we would deliver after somebody had surgery or, you know, they were in the hospital or a death in the family. We've done a lot of encouragement cards, reaching out, a lot to our elder community here, just checking on them, making sure that they're okay, seeing if they need anything, getting to know them a little bit better. It's been a good time for that. And we've helped with yard work. We've helped with electric bills. One of the things I thought was interesting when I was gathering all my statistics is that we gave out 20 meals to 5 different families. And we don't, those of us that do that, we don't seek reimbursement. We're doing that on our own. It comes up and it's like, oh, hey, so-and-so, the Walshes had a baby. Oh, you know, let's bless them with meals. And we all just were like, okay, here's a sign-up sheet, and 20, I think they had like 3 weeks of deliveries, something like that. We've been able to give out gift cards to WinCo members and regular attenders. We've been able to give out $50 gift cards. Community people who come in who say, hey, you know, do you guys help? We give out $40 gift cards. Go ahead. This one's been huge, and I wish Olivia was here because she is the one who decided to take this on. Most of you guys know Troy and Antonia Cater. They have been going to Birch Food, which is in Gresham. They drive all the way to Gresham, fill up the van with whatever's there that week, and bring it to the church for our family and our community. We've had problems with looters, people who have nothing better to do, but, you know, create havoc. Raccoons have gotten into stuff. So it was really limiting who could use this for their family, because the caterers would drop it off and then they'd need to come back that night. Well, a lot of times, Troy's been awesome, but he does it on his day off. Well, that's the middle of the day for a lot of working people. By the time they've gotten here, they've already cleaned up for the day, or there's not really anything left that's useful for them. So Olivia came up with the idea of using the White House, and the elders thought, well, let's use the garage. So we have turned the garage over to the White House into what we call the Felida Food Pantry. And that has been a huge success. It's only been running for about a month and a half now, and it's been a huge success. We've heard reports of, you know, this is helping my family out. We've had more people using it. Could be timing, could also be because of the whole corona thing. We also had a fridge, freezer, and then a standalone freezer donated to us. We sent out an email to the church family and said, hey, does anybody have anything they're getting rid of? And next thing we knew, we had brand new appliances in there. It was just amazing. Let's see, we have put up a board. It's a really huge whiteboard for people to leave comments. And we also have a little board on the refrigerator, just so we get an idea of how many people are using the Felida Food Pantry. We're not asking for names, but we just kind of want to get an idea of how many people are picking up for how many people. And I took some pictures. I didn't include it in the slide because I wasn't sure what this would look like when it was all done. So some of the comments is, well, Troy is rocking his hairdo, apparently. If those of you who know Troy, he's bald. This says, blessings from heaven. Thank you so much. Thank you, Troy and Antonia. Really appreciate the generosity. Thank you. Love it. Thank you so much for everything you do. Helping my family more than you know. There were a couple others, but I don't know who's writing them, but one of them didn't pertain to anything in the food pantry. But we've been, like I said, we've been working really hard. And actually, it's been great that we've had so many people feeling like during this time that they can reach out. That lets us deacons know that we're doing something right. If people are feeling like they can call and say, "Hey, I'm really struggling. Can you just pray for me?" My son had surgery about 10 days ago, and the Rempros just sent him a card. And even though he gets oh yeah, I know it meant a lot to him because he's a teenager. So, but just knowing that people were praying for him made a huge difference for him. So, I think that's all I've got.
Hi there, I'm Greg, if you can't tell from behind the mask. I oversee the administration ministry, and administration really is a ministry that supports our other ministry areas with facility, with office, with supplies, with finance, things like that, to try to just enable them, equip them to do their ministries the way they plan to. So that's what administration is about. You see on the screen kind of how we have been organized somewhat. And the main thing I wanted to talk about this morning is that we are just doing a little bit of realignment of that. So what we're just trying to do, it's not a huge change. It's just trying to align things with that more close to how we actually view what we do and how we actually operate. So the two main things are the maintenance, which has been viewed as a separate area historically here. But up until the last couple of years, it's been kind of operated that way. It makes more sense for it to be part of what is called now the facility and operations area. The main reason for that is that it made sense to view maintenance separately when we kind of had most maintenance being done by a handyman who had plenty of time and did most of the stuff himself. That doesn't exist anymore, and hasn't for the last couple of years. We've just been more in the mode of trying to, being intentional about coordinating a number of volunteers who do the maintenance, and that's worked pretty well. So now we're going to make that coordination of maintenance part of what the office does, because the office is kind of on the front lines of knowing what needs to be done, for one thing, is good at coordinating and using our system, which is how we do that coordinating. So we're going to move maintenance coordination, and this is routine maintenance type things, to the office to be coordinated going forward. The other change is finance, which has been viewed as a separate area, but it hasn't been separate in the way we're organized. So it needs to be viewed as a separate area and operated that way. So it's kind of being separated out, as you see here. So subtle changes, but one of the things that the change provides is it helps to identify, it makes it easier to identify who's in charge. And so who's in charge of facility and operations is Jane Botvinnik, who's been our manager of office and facility use. So she's now manager of this entire area, facility and operations. And Stu Misfeld, who has been leading us in the finance area in a number of ways. He will oversee this or coordinate this entire area now. Now Jane and Stu have been responsible for a lot of this stuff already, so not a big adjustment for them. I've had some of these responsibilities too. What I have been responsible for will be transitioned totally to them by the end of this year, end of this calendar year. And so I will no longer be the maintenance guy. I will no longer be the finance guy. These folks will, and they're very capable of doing that extremely well. So I think it just makes a whole lot more sense. The other thing is that I will also no longer be an elder as of the end of this calendar year, be transitioning out of that role as well. I think that's going to be a really good thing ultimately for the church. It's just time, I think, for some fresh leadership there for the church. I think that'll be a healthy thing for the church. And also time for me personally for some fresh ways of serving. I think that'll be a healthy thing for me for growing in my walk with Christ. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm just kind of changing what I'm doing, how I'm participating with you as a church. Okay, so that covers the administrative area plus a little bit about my role as an elder. I'm going to move into the budget part of this now. All right, so I want to just again kind of circle back to where we started. You've seen and heard the ministry plans for the different areas, and I think it's important for us to think of it that way. We need to think of this and what we're about to vote on as the ministry of this church, the plan for how we as a church, all of us, envision us doing ministry over the next year, and doing that ministry in order to achieve the purpose of this church, to achieve our mission, which Tyler reminded us of when we started. That's what this is all about. Now, so it's more than just a budget. When we think of budget, we think of dollars, right? So this is a lot more than just a budget. This is our vision for how we're going to accomplish our mission in the next year. Now, it does require dollars, so I want to address that. On this slide, you see several of the components of the plans that you heard about that do affect our dollars quite a bit. There's quite a bit here that's really, really good. Adding a small wonders employee, adding 2 interns, filling the youth coordinator position, increasing what we plan to contribute to OCC. And by the way, as Scott pointed out, that increase only gets us to roughly 7% of what it costs us to ship all these boxes. So it's just really still a drop in the bucket. But a lot of good changes there. That drive the dollars. So to help you try to process this, I just wanted to hit some of the highlights here. This maybe is, I don't know how clearly you can see, but what this chart is showing is the monthly amount of dollars that we budgeted in the light blue bar. That's how much we budgeted this year. The next bar is how much we actually expect to spend for this year on a monthly basis. That number is pretty low this year because of the shutdown. So a lot of planned spending we didn't end up doing. The next bar is the proposed budget on a monthly basis, and the final bar is what we expect giving to average this fiscal year each month. So they're all pretty close when you look at the bars. To specify the dollars, this proposed budget is on a monthly basis $1,064 over this current year's budget. So in order for us to carry out this vision, giving needs to be $1,064 a month, or excuse me, we're planning to spend $1,064 a month more in order to carry out this vision this ministry year. Compared to what we've been giving, the expected spending for this proposal is $771 more than the average giving has been this fiscal year. So we need to give that much more in order to carry out this vision. All right. So to help you process that, I wanted to show you what giving has looked like. I know it's a lot of information on one screen, but what it's showing is by month, the black bars represent the amount of giving that has come in. This is the normal giving to our operating fund. The horizontal line is the budgeted giving. So that was what the plan was. So you see a lot of months where giving was below plan, and then you see several months where giving was higher than plan. And you see one month where giving was a lot higher than plan. That was from some significant giving by a couple of givers. So overall, when you look at that, we are ahead of plan on an average basis for this fiscal year. The other thing that's kind of interesting is if you look at since March, three of our 5 best giving months have been in the last 3 months when we haven't even been meeting. Yeah, so yeah, God has really provided. I'm not sure, well, I guess he just knew that what we needed. And also so far in June, it looks like June will keep that trend going. It looks like giving will be above that horizontal line in June. So 4 out of the 6 best months will be in the last 4 months. So in terms of can we reasonably expect to achieve the giving level that this proposed ministry plan requires, I'd say the answer is yes, based on the overall view of this last year, but certainly based on the trend of the last 4 months, it looks very doable. All right. So that is all I was going to share. Scott's going to lead us through the voting on this, I think.
Okay, so now we want to have a time of questions if you have them. And then after the questions are completed, we will take the time to vote. Everybody, you should have a ballot. There should have been one on the pew. Does anybody not have a ballot? Okay, I don't know where they are. Okay, so now for those of you who are watching via live stream, if you are a member and want to vote, this is how you're going to do it. In the description there for this YouTube video, in that description, there is a link to click on that will bring up a ballot for you. And you need to answer the question about being a member because this is a member's responsibility. And then also you need to enter a password in order. And the whole purpose of the password is because we needed to know, and don't do it yet. Don't vote. Wait till after we're done with the question and answers. Because if anything gets amended in the budget, you are going to be voting on the budget as amended by the members through the question and answer. That doesn't often happen, but it could happen. So wait and do the voting at the end of the question and answer time. The password, Tyler, did you confirm that was correct? Yeah. It's the word Psalms, because we want to pick a word that's hard to spell. All lowercase, okay? All lowercase, Psalms, like the book of Psalms, but with a lowercase p, not a capital P. All right, so that's where you'll enter that in the password in order to vote online. Now the live stream is actually 30 seconds behind what we're doing, so it's truly not live stream. It's 30 seconds behind stream, but that's hard to say. So now we will take questions. And right before we get to the questions, Carrie asked if she could come up and give us a quick update on where we're at with OCC. So this is actually an extension of the previous presentation on mission. So Carrie, come on up.
Okay, is this good? Okay. Well, I just wanted to, first of all, thank people who've continued to make things and bring things and do things even though we haven't been meeting. And I wanted to let you know the things that we have enough of so far this year, which is really exciting. We are done with soap and washcloths, finished, no more, we don't need any more. We're done with stuffed animals, and we're done with toothbrushes. What's coming up next is July and August is big school supply month. And we have enough pencils and pens. So we really need to focus on paper and crayons during this next time when we think about school supplies. And then the really big thing, and this is always true, are toys. We always, it seems like we always run out of things that I kind of put together all the fun things, all the things that are not the necessary items under toys. But so we're really needing things mostly for the 10 to 14-year-old, both boys and girls. And I just have a few suggestions I'll run through real quickly. Tennis balls, checkers, yo-yos, jump ropes, puzzles, small calculators, and shirts, hats, and flip-flops are also things that we can put in the boxes. Flip-flops will probably be going on sale towards the end of summer. We haven't had any propagandas so far. People have been kind of taking things and doing them. But hopefully we will have, when it comes time for like the paper, that we'll be able to meet together, maybe like set up in the gym, tables apart, wearing masks, something like that. But we hopefully will be able to do that. So I'm excited about what has happened so far. We've had some nice financial gifts too that came in along with the other big gifts, and so I'm just encouraging people to think about the needs we have there for shipping as well. So.
Thank you. Okay, so now we can take questions. Oh, first for membership, Brenda Strayhorn has met all the qualifications for members and is recommended from the Board of Elders to the membership for acceptance. So that's on your ballot. You also have on your ballot nothing. There's the questions. There's two positions that get voted on every year at this time. That's the positions of church clerk and finance secretary. Church clerk is Nancy Olszewski, and she's agreed to do it for another year. That means she takes notes, minutes at the meetings. And then finance secretary is Judy Kramer, and she's the one who keeps track of everyone's giving and puts out gives you your receipts at the end of the year. So both of those people have agreed to serve another year, and so they're on the ballot as well. All right, questions. If you have a question, then I'll direct it to whichever person would be the best one to answer it. And if we have any on the line. Okay, a question from online for Cindy. So she's on her way up. Yes, please come on up. Yeah, please repeat the question.
All right, I believe the question was about interns and just our plan for how they get trained and how they are overseen. Is that a good summary of that? Do they get any leadership training? Gotcha. Okay, do they get any leadership training? So one of the goals that we had last year was, because we were hoping for them to be able to be hired, was we did some training specifically with the zone. So I feel like they are pretty well trained as far as what we do for ministry with the zone. And obviously they would be overseen by me through that. Eventually that would be something that the youth coordinator would oversee with them. Likewise, as far as training would happen with them, as if they're helping with our YVX time, there'd be some training as far as like, what am I trying to say? Like how to do a lesson, how to, different topics on kids and youth. When I do have interns, we try to meet weekly, and I always try to have some type of topic that we kind of focus on. It could be anything from ministry with teens to things that they're struggling with, things on how to teach a lesson. The other part that, as far as maybe paired with training that I'm working on and planning to meet with them in either this week or next, is just making sure that those guys have somebody that they have that is mentoring them on a spiritual level. So I know that's been kind of a hard thing this last year. So that's kind of in planning. Does that cover that? Anything else for me? Okay.
Well, unless anyone in the room has a question.
Oh, anybody? Yeah. Oh, thank you. She said the grad party was awesome. It was super fun. Thank you. It was. Yeah, I've actually had many people ask if we can do it again. I was like, well, maybe. So we'll see. But yeah, people really enjoyed getting to see each of the graduates, and it was fun. So, anything else for me? Okay.
Tyler's on his way to answer a couple of discipleship ministry questions.
The two that were asked for me, one was for clarification, how are prayer hours calculated? You remember I talked about the week of prayer wanting 50 or more hours. So during the week of prayer, each one of our prayer meetings is 30 minutes. And so if you come for one prayer meeting, you prayed 0.5 prayer hours that week. And so if 5 people show up to a prayer meeting, that's 2 prayer hours. Okay? So when I say 50 prayers, that's how I'm calculating it. Does that make sense? Clear? Okay. Okay. I'll explain it. I'll draw pictures later. Sorry, that was rude. The second question was, how do you see the transition to small groups happening? Now, I'm not sure if this question is asking, the sign-ups that I mentioned. How do I see that happening from the time of the sign-up to the person joining the small group, or if you mean from the coronavirus thing, what we're doing right now, into small groups. So I'll try to briefly answer both because I'm not sure in what sense the question was asked. For how it will happen with the signups, a lot of our groups, a decent amount of them, have room for a handful of more people, and so the goal is to plug them into existing groups. There has been talk about trying to plant another group, and the key to that is identifying 1 or 2 stable, consistent leaders who can do that. I have a few people in mind, but the need right there is not yet. But there's people in the back of my mind that if the need does come up, I think we could pull the trigger on that. Or if the question was, how do we see the transition happening from where we are now to the coronavirus stuff? I'm at this point giving a lot of decision making up to the small group leaders themselves. Currently, according to the regulations put out by Jay Inslee, we can only allow church meetings of up to 5 people, and you have to have masks and you have to have 6 feet apart. So that makes small groups pretty untenable, officially speaking. So in phase 3, I think it went up. Do you remember if it went up to 10, what the small group gatherings were? In phase 3, it goes up, but I can't remember what the number is. Does it go up to 50? So we would have the appropriate number. The government would still like you to be 6 feet away from each other and wear masks. So the good news is during the summer, it's pretty easy to do that. And you can do that in your backyard or something. And just each small group, some of them take breaks during the summer. Some of them are, even if they do that, are going to want to still meet during the summer. So I'm at this point waiting until phase 3. When that happens, my plan is to communicate with small group leaders some options. Okay. Any other questions for me? Yeah. No, that was pretty grassroots. It was one. Oh, sorry, excuse me, thank you. The question was, I mentioned a Seeker Bible study during my presentation, and the question was, had there been an announcement did I miss something? Like, kind of how come I didn't know, sort of. And the answer is it was a currently existing small group that had decided to do that. And it was organic relationships within that small group. So it was, a person's friend or coworker or whatever, and the decision was that that small group was going to host it as kind of a small group thing. Yeah, I don't think the group would have pushed other people away, but we intentionally didn't want to try to make it like a big church program push, if that makes sense. So, especially because, to my knowledge, none of our small groups have done that before, and so it was a little bit of a trial run that didn't get to happen. But does that answer your question? Yeah. Go ahead. Sure, yeah. So the question was, does Discipleship Ministries, I'm going to rephrase it and tell me if this is fair. Does Discipleship Ministries overlap with youth ministry at the point where, we see kind of an Evan Sawyer type person coming up? Do we see an overlap there where the Discipleship Ministries and youth ministry would kind of work together? No, I don't like Cindy, and we just never do anything together. No, just kidding. That's a joke. You can't see my face. So actually, that's something that Drew and I talked about in the past before he stepped down. And we talked about, actually, in general, trying to create a smoother transition for high schoolers going into college. And we had a few ideas on that, one of which was trying to have me and other adults, and I know Drew was very intentional about having adults in the church, some of you maybe even in YBX settings. And we had talked about the goal of taking that a little bit of a step further and inviting some high schoolers into adult small groups, preferably not the ones their parents were in, because I don't think the parents or the kids would like that. But trying to help transition them to adult ministry in the church so they don't feel like, I'm in this totally different universe that I've never really spent time in, I don't have relationships with. So that's a little bit of an answer to your question in terms of specifically training ministry people. We haven't had a specific plan. There have in the past always been fairly organic relationships between the interns and the church staff. That was the case when I was an intern, when Mark Claudson was here. And I was interning under Cindy, but there was an organic relationship there, and the same was true when Noah Purcell was an intern, and Malia and Brianna had organic relationships with Scott and I, as well as with Cindy, of course. And so that's always sort of happened organically, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to put a little bit more specificity to it. So does that answer your question, Damien? Cool. Any other questions for me? The question was, who are the new BX teachers? The answer is Bud McCrae and Alex Hansen. So, yeah. Any other questions for me? Cool. I'm going to step back and check the computer, so if another came in for me, I'll answer that in a minute. But to my knowledge, nothing has come in for you yet, but I'll check.
Oh, Jenny has a question for me. Oh, good. Yes. There is no replacing Greg. That absence will be felt, as will Mac and Ian's absence regarding their move. One of my biggest struggles over the years with the Lord is when He decides to move someone out of some place that I really want them to be. But He's working on me as well, and I totally respect Greg's decision and his reasons for it. And he's not leaving, so I just want to reemphasize that to everybody in the room, especially Greg. The way our bylaws read, we don't have a specified number of how many elders we need to have, because we don't want to ever be in the position of just trying to fill a slot with somebody who's willing but not necessarily called and qualified. But we are definitely looking around, and if you guys know of someone who you feel would make an excellent elder, by all means. There is a procedure. If you go back and read your Constitution bylaws, there's a procedure for how we affirm, because we believe elders are called by God to that responsibility. And so there'll be a gifting, there'll be a desire, there'll be some certain qualifications. So yes, we're definitely looking, and we have some people in mind, but it's not, oh, Greg's left, we've got to fill a slot. That's not how it works. So yeah, please everybody be praying. And one of the things that really needs to happen is the men that God has called to serve that way need to know that from the Lord and have a desire to do that, because it is taking on a mantle of responsibility. And that responsibility is significant. And every elder has a certain number of members that they are regularly praying for and trying to keep tabs on for spiritual oversight, as well as overseeing all the ministry. So yes, we believe that we need more. So even 4 felt thin, 3 is going to feel even thinner. So let's be praying that God would show us who He has to fill that role. Yes, Mrs. Weisner. The question, I believe, is what kind of ministry things is Greg thinking about instead of being an elder? Yeah, do you want to take that, or do you want to decline that?
I decline to answer that question. No, I appreciate the question. I think I know, well, I've already started becoming involved in some ministry areas that I think I'll continue in. I've been one of those adults that has been involved with the high schoolers. I've been serving in Small Wonders in the second hour. I've been facilitating a small group. I'd like to do that better. Mostly, I feel like I don't have a well laid out plan. That my general feeling is that God is calling me to grow in serving in ways that maybe aren't natural for me. And through that, and most of it is going to be more relational. And I think through that's he wants me to grow in that way. And it's pretty easy for me to put together budgets and plans and administer and stand up and talk. And so I've been doing that for many years. And it's just time for me to grow and serve in more relational ways, I think. You're welcome.
Yes, by all means, take time and let Greg know how significant his ministry has been. And I really appreciate that about his heart, is that he doesn't want to just be comfortable in a rut. I think that's a good word for all of us. Sometimes we feel like, oh, if it's uncomfortable, that must not be God's will for my life. Have you read the Bible? Okay. And God often calls us in ways that feel very uncomfortable. And it's in those uncomfortable places, because what do we have to do when we're not comfortable? We have to rely on Jesus. Guess what God wants us to do more than anything else? Rely on Jesus, that He gets the glory, not us. Because if it's something that is just our natural talents and abilities, not that God doesn't use those, but it's harder for us to remember to consciously rely on Jesus when it's something that's easy for us. So God often moves us out of our comfort zones, and we complain the whole time. Well, speaking for myself, I do. or I'm tempted to, and I'm trying to learn not to do that. I think this whole coronavirus thing, one of God's many, many purposes, because he is sovereign, one of his many, many purposes is to shake all of us out of our comfortable routines and to depend on Jesus consciously, intentionally, again and again. And we're just having to do that. Nobody likes wearing masks. Nobody likes the social distancing thing. But it's just, when everything's always the same, we get comfortable. And then we forget why we're here and what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be, making disciples for Jesus. We're supposed to be becoming more obedient disciples. So, yeah, if you've been thinking, like, for example, when you heard me say, hey, we need more worship personnel to run sound, to run camera, to run that. We need somebody to be the guest services coordinator. We need somebody, what was the other one? I don't know, there's others. Elders. If you hear that and immediately think, well, I could do that, but that would be uncomfortable. So I don't want to do that. Obviously, God wants me to do something I'm comfortable with. No. So don't let just an initial feeling of, well, that's outside of my comfort zone. Don't let that be the deciding factor. Any more questions from online? Or did somebody in here have one? Yes, Joan. I don't know at this point. It's all very new. Sorry, the question was, with Ian moving on, what will happen with Heart Change Ministry, because we host Heart Change workshops here. One of the things that's happened, of course, is that Heart Change workshops have not been able to happen because of the coronavirus thing. It's uncertain. We barely touched that topic when we talked just a few days ago, so I don't know yet. Yes? Yeah, you missed it because I didn't tell you. It's not public knowledge yet, so I'm not able to tell you where they're going. It's a church in Vancouver. How's that? Okay, that's all I can tell you at this point. Jenny? If you look in the budget, yes, I can repeat the question. Thank you for asking. The question is, who's on the Slovenia team, and how much is Felida contributing to that? The answer of who's on the team is unknown, because at this point we don't have a team. We had some people who were interested and willing to go, but it all remains to be seen as to when the timing is and who's available. We are probably, the goal was to invite people specifically who have the interest and the skills that would make, because we don't want this to be gee, I want an adventure, I want to go on something, and it's almost a tourist kind of thing. We're going to because we want this team to be able to hit the ground and provide actual service that's being requested. So if you're interested in being on the Slovenian team, you can always mention that. Tyler and who else was? Melissa White. You can talk to them and express your interest. As far as funding, yeah, I think it's the $1,200 for field visitation under the missions budget, which is not very much. So most of those who go are going to have to raise the majority of their support. Other question? Yes. In the past meeting, we talked about planting a new church. Yes. What's going on with that? Well, if you notice, the funding for that was zeroed out for this year, and that's because that has gone into a hiatus stage. The people who were involved in kind of leading that decided to step back and reevaluate, and some other opportunities came up. It just became the consensus that the timing is not right now. So we do not have We don't have any funds in this coming year's budget for that. Yeah, I sure can. So the question that I just answered was, in our previous year budget, we had an amount for a church plant effort here in the greater Clark County area. That's been put on hold. There's no funding in this coming year's budget for that because the people who were kind of leading that charge have stepped back and are reevaluating. So I don't really know what's going to happen with that. If it gets restarted, then we will seek to contribute to that. Any other questions? Anything else online?
There was one that came in and they asked it, specifically asked the elders, can a woman be a BX speaker?
Can a woman be okay, you've heard the term BX several times. I don't know that it always got explained. Our Bible Explorer groups are our adult group meetings at the second hour. YBX is our Youth Bible Explorer group. The question was what? Can a woman? Yeah, that's been a, can a woman lead or teach a BX, Bible Explorer group? Did everybody hear that? Okay, thanks for putting me on the spot. I really appreciate that. No, that's been a difficult question to answer because as you look at the scriptural guardrails, thank you, good word, for eldering, it limits that role to men, and that's a position that this church seeks to uphold. And one of the functions of eldering is teaching. Now the question is, what kind of teaching? Because obviously we have women teaching, women are capable of teaching, they're gifted in teaching, and so on. It appears, my understanding of 1 Timothy 3 on the role of teaching is teaching with an elder-like authority, which means it's the buck stops here, doctrinal oversight type of teaching. Is that what our BX teachers do? A lot of it depends on what's being taught and how it's being taught. So we have been discussing it. We will continue to discuss it. I can't give you a definitive no or yes because it's just not all that clear. So that's called my political non-answer. Other questions? Here's the thing. You know, this is one of those issues. There are a lot of them in our culture now. We need to remember that if God designs something a certain way, He's got a good reason for it, whether or not we understand it or not. His design for the home is masculine headship in the home. The church is the family of God, and He's designed masculine headship for the church. When we were talking through 1 Corinthians and we were going through all the issues of sexuality, it is so easy for culture to say, I want to redefine what sexuality and gender and everything else. And we hear what the Bible says and we hear it as bad news. And we need to not do that. We need to understand that God's design is always for our good and embrace it as good news, even if it's teaching something at first glance or appear. And sometimes we got it wrong and we need to rethink it. But when the Bible is clear about what His design is, we want to embrace that as good news. But we don't want to just be traditional. Well, that's how we've always done it, so that's how we're always going to do it. We want to be open. What does the Bible actually teach? Embrace that as good news and live it out. So, any others? Okay, any other questions here? Okay, then it's time to vote. So again, if you're watching online, there's a link in the YouTube video description that you click on. The password is Psalms, all lowercase p, SALMS. Did I spell that right? And I think we're taking 5 minutes to make sure that everybody who's watching online has time to vote and submit their ballot online. So all of you go ahead and vote that are here. Answer the question that's there, check your ballot, and then Greg is collecting. And do we have a non-elder? Jenny's the non-elder that count. That's what our bylaws state, that both an elder and a non-elder have to count the ballots. Tyler's counting the digital ballots as they come in. So this would be a really good place to tell a story or a joke or something. I don't have one. I saw one that was funny. It said a priest, a minister, and a rabbit walked into a bar, and the bartender asked the rabbit, "What do you have?" And he says, "I don't know. I'm just here because of autocorrect." Did you all hear that Karen and I are grandparents for the second time? This is just shameless advertising. But our second grandchild is a little girl, and she is adorable. Her name is, am I supposed to say? Is it public? Anna. Anna Joy. Anybody have any news? Something to share for the good of the order? Your granddaughter was due. This is Damianne telling me this. She was due last Monday, and she's hanging in there. Literally, doesn't want to come out. I don't blame her, given the way things are right now. Everybody turn their ballots in. I didn't. I hope my vote isn't the deciding vote. Tiebreaker. I doubt it. If you haven't had a chance, when we're done here, go out and check out the new refinements in the fellowship hall. Can you tell it's been painted in here? Is it obvious? I hope. These walls used to be kind of a mauve-y color. Someone called it salmon. So this is all different. Everything's been painted in here. So, what's that? Not the ceiling, sorry. Those popcorn ceilings are horrible to paint. That's the intention. I don't know that we certainly won't remove the screen right away, just in case we want to use it for something. But it probably will go away at some point. But we won't be using it. The plan is to not use it. So the cross will be visible throughout the whole service. The song lyrics and the sermon slides will be there. And see, that enables us to position the speaker or the song leader in such a way that the lyrics and scripture are behind them, and we don't have to do some fancy split screen stuff, which is complicated. So, in case you're wondering. By the way, you'll notice some of the pews have been taken out on the sides. That's all to maintain the 6 feet of distance that we've been asked to maintain. I feel like that yellow caution tape is a little bit of overkill, but it does the job. Yeah. Say it again. What was the question? Oh yeah, they're down in the gym. You can see them down there. If you miss them, you can go stop by. One of the questions is, what happens when we go to phase 3? Phase 3, the numbers go up, but the latest that I've seen is that masks are still required. And the idea of preaching or song leading with a mask on is just difficult. So what I was hoping we could do is invite people in here who were comfortable with masks being optional. And we would put all the singing at the end of the service, and we would open the windows, and so there would just only be a few minutes of singing and the air that generates. But according to the last guidelines I've seen, that's not going to be the case. So the only way to get people in this room is for speaker and song leader to wear masks, or we'll have to do something like pre-record it and then show it on the screen. So you can pray about that, because I'm not sure. Well, it is on the public website. So if somebody goes to our public website and wants to come. I don't think I'm the right guy for this job, actually. Can I repeat the question? The question had to do with, because we're having signups, because we really have to know how many people are coming and how many household units we have, we're requiring a sign up. We have both a 9:30 and 11 o'clock sign up. We didn't have an 11 o'clock today for obvious reasons. Last week we had an 11 o'clock and nobody signed up for it, so it was just 9:30. How about people in the community who are not already a part of our Felida family? How will they know about that? Well, it is on the public website. So if they go to felida.org, it says right there how to participate. Click on sign up. So yeah, it's definitely not ideal. If you have ideas on ways that we could make it better known, I think, did Cindy leave? Cindy, have we put anything on Facebook about live stream? Yeah. So it is going out on our Facebook page. Do we have the results? We are thumbs up on everything that was on the ballot. So welcome Brenda Strayhorn into our membership. Thank you to Nancy and Judy for serving another year. And the ministry plan budget was approved. So, Tyler, Cindy, did you have anything more? Okay, I guess we're finished. So I will close in prayer and we will be finished. Gracious Father, I just thank you once again for this church family, and I thank you for the privilege of doing business together. Lord, it's not business in the way we often think of business, but it's planning and prayerfully seeking your guidance. Thank you for the guidance that's been given, and Lord, give us courage and wisdom to carry it out boldly, knowing that you are at work. Lord, may we fix our hope completely on the grace to be given us when Jesus is revealed, and live every day in light of that. Thank you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.